What's going on? So, I always say that Jesse Owens, Althea Gibson, and Arthur Ashe never get the full due that they deserve. Um, Competing at the highest level in the face of hate and ignorance of what they all accomplished. There should be even more documentary books about them. Um, you know, I remember I was on a stargazing expedition a few years ago on a boardwalk. And the guy had his telescope and he said, if we could go back to the 1936 Olympic Games, and I thought Jesse Owens, Adolf Hitler in Germany. What he accomplished was mind blowing. That's back when athletes weren't just athletes. They were role models. They were real models. They were real. That's what Charles Barkley was talking about. I'm not your role model. But you see, what you don't get is if you understand the totality of the black athlete, what they really meant, what they were really about, to be able to compete in a sport and dominate track and field, to go there and to run that and to be the top of your game was mind blowing, mind numbing. And it had to leave Hitler speechless. And that needs to be more. There was a movie out, recently, but you could still do more documents about how Jesse Owens was treated when he came back to American soil, the frustration, the politicking, and so-called presidents, no matter what party, didn't give this man a fair balance of treatment. He was treated like a second-class citizen when he came back to the States. That should be documented. When people talk about, oh, you're Republican, you're Democratic, you're this and that, it didn't mean nothing. They treated that man less than for what he accomplished in the face of hate because they were doing it themselves. That's why I have all those wars and all that stuff. But here he was competing for medals, which didn't really carry weight to justify the balance of what it was. So, Althea Gibson playing tennis, first African American female tennis player, predated what Serena Williams went through, but they went through it. They always like a continuous flow and ebb and flow. But when you think about Althea Gibson at that time, uh, groundbreaking, uh, and happened to compete at a high level. And, when you think about all that, it's just really powerful of the forces and everything that's going on. You can't help but be, you're touched by it. And it leaves you like, wow, it wasn't that long ago. Things aren't like this mystical so long ago that if you're 75 years old, so you're very familiar with Althea Gibson. Very familiar. If you're about 80 plus, you know what Jesse Owens went through coming back to the States. So those sort of stories you need to like tell them. And that sports wasn't just entertainment, it was a social status, it was a social situation that took on bigger pictures. Just like Arthur Ashe when he won Wimbledon 50 years ago. First African American man to do that. And all the bias and everything he went through, the tension and everything that he was about. I had Days of Grace. I had his book. It was one of the most powerful books I've ever read. And he talked about racism being worse than anything he could imagine and things he was going through. He was very focused. He was very detailed, well spoken, well thought out, well preserved, very dignified. You know, when you study people who've gone through various forms, and how much athletes are so-called champion, but yet it's just basically a plantation. You see these $1 million athletes, but with no sense of purpose to speak on said individuals. You don't have philosophical conversations. You get basically, I'm paid and I'm stat padding and I'm doing this. Got to understand the totality that you represent more than that, because it is a social standard, it is a social statement. It is like, okay, you representing something bigger than what you could imagine. So it does take on a different nuance. It takes on um, incredible reach. So it's important that you put that there in the proper context. But so often than not, it doesn't get to that uh, standard. So it's one of those things that when I think about these three particular athletes, they definitely deserve to be even in more context of the era of the time and the Jim Crowisms and everything that they had to deal with. So you think about Jesse Owens, Althea Gibson, and Arthur Ashe, and I probably talked about them before in other videos. I can talk about them again because it's compelling and it needs to be discussed in classrooms in colleges and everywhere. You need to understand the totality because this was international. International. All over the world. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for one another. Share it if you like, and hit that membership. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out. Peace.